Hey guys, it's me, Phil. How are we doing? Hope you're having a good day. I've just got back from a few days in Scotland and brilliant time. Absolutely loved it. And I realised I'd not done a redundancy vlog for a few days. So I thought I'd do one now on the 10 things I'm not going to miss while I'm not working at my old place. So here we go. Number one, cutting the bowling greens. Now, to say this was my main job was an understatement. I was constantly down at bowls, and when you lose interest in your job, which no doubt a lot of you will have done, walking up and down for what seems like hours behind an old machine, it can really take the toll on you. And because there was no work being specifically done to the greens, in the end, it just got to be much of a chore than anything else. I was trying to keep upbeat and, trying to love the job. But it wasn't. I just lost all interest in it. And I think for the last 2 years, I just gave up. And I was just going through the motions. So yeah, that's my number one I am not going to miss. Number two, kicking kids off the all-weather 3G and hockey pitches. After about 3:30, kids would kick out from school, especially at weekends as well, school holidays, things like that. Kids would come up to the grounds. It's a private ground, and they would try and use the facilities without paying. Eventually, you'd have to walk over and say, "Look, guys, it's like this. You can't be here. This is a private ground." 90% of the kids was okay, but you've always got them ones that are arrogant and think they're it and showing off in front of the mates. And anybody that knows me knows I don't like kids. It's not that I don't like kids, don't get me wrong. It's just there's those ones that just make my blood boil. So in the end, I just gave up and I said, look, somebody else go and do it. And, it got to the point where there was even a Facebook group giving out the codes to the padlocks that were used on the gates. So that's something else I'm not going to miss. Number three, on a kind of a similar note, people that use the 3G and hockey of an evening, they would constantly leave the gates unlocked. Now, there was your main gates, there was a centre gate, and there was what we call the retrieval gate. I'll show you in a minute on this video. And I've got a very low opinion on footballers at the best of times. But you're leaving the premises, can't you just lock the gates behind you? It's not difficult to do, but a lot of them didn't. Now, I can't blame all the footballers because there was a load of guys that were fantastic. They always made sure that they were locked, but a lot of them didn't. Not very good for security when kids come around. That's another thing I'm not going to miss. Number four, having to mark out football pitches all in one go. I think there was 6 pitches altogether, and to have to do them all at the same time, it could take a couple of hours, don't get me wrong. I used to enjoy it, but the marker I used to use would constantly clog up, and you could get a couple of pitches, then you'd have to bring it back, refill, flush the line through. You should be able to just use the machine to do everything, and that's it. So that's another thing I'm not going to miss. Number 5, working Saturdays and Sundays from 8 till 12. And in the winter, we went down to one day where it will be either Saturday or Sunday, but you'd still have to go in and unlock. And working till 12 o'clock on a Saturday and Sunday, it kind of messes your day up. By the time you finish, you've got home, you've got changed. Yes, you've got like a few hours, but it's not like you can go off and do something. But in my line of work, what it was, you didn't have to, but we had to, if you know what I mean. So that's another thing I'm not going to miss. Number 6, using machinery that's about 10 years out of date. Now, don't get me wrong, we were running on a tight budget. And when we bought new machinery, it was always second-hand stuff, or third-hand, or fourth-hand. And working with stuff like that, it's going to go wrong. And repairing stuff takes money, which was the big problem because we were working on a low budget. And it just made the job a lot harder. You were constantly fighting the machinery to do the job, and you could only do what you could do. Cylinders need to be changed, bottom blades on the mowers needs to be changed, and it all added up. So that's another thing I'm not going to miss. Number 7, very little communication at times from the bosses. Um, I remember when one of the guys was off ill, and it was just me and Gaz, and we were doing a hell of a lot, and it was the middle of summer, and we got a message from the bosses going, "Oh, don't forget there's a cricket match." And we says, "Oh, right, when's that?" And it's like, "Oh, tonight." What? There's like 4 hours. And it was only under 13 kids, don't get me wrong, but in that line of work, you want to do a good job. And with that short amount of time, you couldn't. So, again, it's a bit of a knockdown, but that's another thing I'm not going to miss. Number 8, the amount of walking. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a physical job. I understand this, but this season I was 53 years old, and sometimes I was doing 30,000 steps. And in the summer, you don't want to use your car. You walk to work, you walk home, and it can be really, really tiring. I mean, I've got bad knees, bad arms, all that kind of stuff. When you walk in that distance, it wipes you out. A lot, the other guys was on tractors and things like that, and I was doing the walking jobs because I was the youngest, basically. But yeah, I'm not going to miss walking all the time. Although I do like walking, don't get me wrong. Bit of a contradiction there, but never mind. Number 9, CCTV use. Now, over the past couple of years, we had CCTV installed at work. And in the beginning, they were used for the wrong reason. We did bring it up with the bosses. They were using them to spy on us, seeing what time we was going in and out and things like that. Sometimes you might work over into your break, so you go in later. And it will be like, well, why did you go in later? Well, we was finishing off this job and we was having a bit of a time change kind of thing. And the fact that it was being used, we did bring this up with the bosses. We said, look, we're losing trust in you because you're constantly watching what we're doing, even though we're not doing anything wrong. So that's another thing I'm not going to miss. It did settle down, don't get me wrong. Number 10, lack of training. I was often saying, really we need to be having licenses and things like that going on, training courses, and it never happened. And again, I just started refusing using things because if we'd have been caught, we would have been fined, the bosses would have been fined. So we had kind of contractors coming on some things to do certain work. Not really going to say much on that, but hey, that's another thing. So yeah, there are my top 10 things I'm not going to miss about where I used to work. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment, whatever you want to do, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.